Hey, true believers, Englentine here. This one needs to be seen to be believed. This is a little bit of our live stream. In this case, we're talking about the fact that, I kid you not, Miles Morales is the wrong kind of diversity. Yeah, I know, right? So kick back, relax, enjoy what we had to say about this article I found. It is just amazing. There is no pleasing the social justice warrior community. Now, I know going off on the social justice warriors, so I did have another story in mind that I just thought was amazing to me. I'm going to wait for it to come on the phone here. We have this story, guys, that's titled, Miles Morales is not Peter Parker, Why New Characters Don't Solve the Problem of Diverse Representation. So, ladies and gentlemen, the world we live in now, www.tor, this is where this came from, and trust me, this is going to make its rounds, believes that diverse characters are no longer diverse enough. I have not yet read this, so...
Because by diversity...
That is amazing.
Yeah,
purity spiral.
These people believe that diversity means get rid of whitey.
Either that or it means get rid of everybody who doesn't think like us.
That's it.
So, once again, I haven't read this. I figured it might be fun to go over it blind because you never know.
And I like Miles.
Yeah, I know. Nobody has a problem with Miles at all. He was before the whole big diversity push. This is written by a guy named Stephen Padnick. So we'll see. We'll see what it says here. In response to my recent article stating why Idris Elba playing Elba. See, it's not just you, Diego.
Yeah, Idris Elba.
Yeah. Idris Elba playing James Bond would improve the character. Some ask why anyone needs established characters to be portrayed, with greater diversity. Why can't we just be happy with new characters that are like the established characters that better represent a diverse world? It's a very common question that seems reasonable. On its face, it concedes that representation matters. The representation in the fictional world signifies social existence. Absence means symbolic annihilation. But this response is a dodge, a form of derailment. Yes, obviously, creators should tell new stories with new characters, but that's not nearly enough. New character. Oh, okay. I didn't know if anybody was going to comment.
I don't think we need to.
You started talking. Are you waiting for me to talk? Come on.
No, that was just it. My response was a John Cleese style. Is it?
Oh, okay. Alrighty. New characters don't answer the central question, which is being white, straight, and male somehow intrinsic to established characters, the iconic heroes, the role model for millions? I think the answer is no, and I think that diverse casting is the way to prove that point. A good example of this is Spider-Man. In 2010, Donald Glover said he wanted to play Peter Parker in the upcoming Amazing Spider-Man and asked, does Spider-Man have to be white? There are, after all, plenty of poor, nerdy kids in Queens being raised by their aunts who are people of color. An online campaign to get him the part failed, but it, and winking reference to on Glover's show Community, inspired Brian Michael Bendis to create Miles Morales, a black Puerto Rican Spider-Man currently headlining the comic Spider-Man. Now, I remember when Donald Glover was up for the role of Peter Parker, and I was like, oh, okay. Yeah, I could see that.
Not for Peter Parker.
I'll be honest, I wasn't for it. I just didn't see it.
Yeah, well, yeah, I'm a big Community fan, so I was all up for it.
The thing is, I mean, this has been said ad nauseum, but you take this and you reverse it. Like, we'll put out a campaign to have the next Black Panther movie starring Ryan Reynolds as T'Challa.
Fuck that. I want Neil Patrick Harris to play Shaft.
Yeah,
bring it on.
You can see the shitstorm which would ensue.
Oh, absolutely.
Well, Peter Parker is a New Yorker from Queens or whatever, right?
But yeah.
Why isn't Jason Statham playing?
There's kind of a difference between somebody who's from like a specifically super ethno-state nation and somebody who's from New York.
No, fair enough. Falcon then.
Question, guys. Why
There
isn't
are-
Jason Statham playing Luke Cage?
His accent.
He's an actor. He can do other accents.
Yeah, I know. I think I actually want to see that
Yeah.
too, but not as much as Neil Patrick Harris's Shaft. I think that one would be better.
To
Let's
be honest, I
see.
think he could actually pull it off.
Englentine got a job. I hope it ain't in San Francisco. Yeah, no, it's not. I'm not sweeping up anybody's poop. Damon is saying Peter Parker isn't even Peter Parker these days. Which, yeah,
I've
he's
got
right.
another one for you here about this. Taking an established character, Peter Parker, turn him into a black kid. That does nothing to help your diversity. In fact,
No.
it kind of dilutes the reasoning for it. It weakens your stance because you just treading on the coattails of an already established character.
Yeah,
You
see,
do yourself
the
no
question,
favours.
I agree with you. The question that he's actually asking would be better answered by an original black character, by
Yeah.
Miles Morales, because then you're actually saying, will somebody accept this new hero? Spider-Man is a name that's going to drag people in no matter what, because it's frickin' Spider-Man.
Yeah.
So now this new movie coming up, Spider-Man, well, that's not quotation mark Spider-Man. That's a new guy, isn't it? So we're going to find out if this new guy can stand on his own. Iffy, because Peter Parker's still in it. But you're right, absolutely. If as much as I would have been okay with Donald Glover, it wouldn't have proven that a black hero can sell comics, or even sell tickets. What did that? Blade showed that it doesn't matter what the color of the person is, so long as it's a badass film. It says, now Miles is a great character, and I'm glad he exists. Donald Glover played Miles on Ultimate Spider-Man Web Warriors, as well as Miles' uncle in Spider-Man Homecoming. So he's gotten to play Spider-Man, but there's the problem. Miles is a Spider-Man. He's still not Spider-Man. That he is not the character one thinks of when one hears Spider-Man, and he never will be Spider-Man unless Peter Parker goes away entirely for like a decade, and maybe not even then. So the creation of Miles Morales doesn't and can't answer the question, does Spider-Man have to be white? If anything, the existence of Miles Morales suggests that Peter Parker can't be black. Since 2011, a black kid in the costume signifies that this is definitely not Peter Parker, not the Spider-Man everyone expects. This shock reveal is used to that exact effect in both Miles' first appearance and the teaser of the Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse and other versions of Spider-Man who are Indian Japanese, who are definitely not Peter Parker, means that Spider-Man, the main Spider-Man, can't be from those backgrounds either. Or we could just expect...
But here's the thing. Clearly, she doesn't know the dynamic between Wally West and Barry Allen and the mantle of the Flash.
Not so much
Because-
doesn't care.
Because
Yeah.
Barry Allen and Wally West are both the Flash. And people, when you say the Flash, people aren't automatically going to know which one you're talking about unless you specify. Because people both think of both of them as the Flash.
I don't understand why we can't give different characters their own identities. Like,
Because the lefties think human beings are interchangeable.
not
like-
leftists, SJWs. That is not the entirety of the left.
Yeah, you know what I mean.
I'll
Yeah.
be the first one to tell you that shit.
Yeah, fair enough.
Well, tomorrow the part of Englentine is going to be played by Corrupt. Corrupt will be Englentine just because
I need to get my I need to get my sarcasm pants on.
you need to get the sarcasm and an affinity for Asian porn.
Yeah, and while you're all changing rules, I will still be Batman.
Creating different versions of Spider-Man who are not white cannot prove that Spider-Man doesn't have to be white, but casting an actor of color absolutely would. And to be super duper clear, Spider-Man does not need to be white.
Yes, he does.
Well, we've proven that, but apparently Peter Parker does. Yes, Peter Parker was white in 1962 when Stan Lee and Steve Ditko created him, and it would be weird if he were suddenly, say, Latino in Amazing Spider-Man 801 when he was white in the 800 issue. Before that, however, every single new TV show, cartoon, movie, video game has been a chance to rethink the character, keep what's essential, and adapt everything else that fits the time. So Spider-Man changes constantly and dramatically. Every new version of Peter Parker adjusts his age his dating status, is he single, engaged, married, or magically divorced, and his job. Is he a high school student, a photographer, a teacher, a scientist, or a CEO? These are all drastic changes that radically affect Parker's history, how he's treated by society, and what personal problems he has. Why can't his race too? Excuse me. Because race can't change, dumbass. Everything he lists, single, engaged, married, magically, or divorced. His job, is he a high school student, photographer, teacher, scientist, CEO? None of these need you to be a different race or any kind of race, but your race requires you to be that race.
Also, comics are a visual medium, dumbass. You can't just.
Also, her entire premise is bullshit. Because
hey, maybe she could be bitten by radioactive African American.
Here's the thing: Jaime Reyes took over the mantle of Blue Beetle after Ted Cord died.
Yep.
Pre-Infinite Crisis. And, after the New 52 came out, they brought back Ted Cord to life, but they also kept Jaime Reyes as the Blue Beetle. But here's the thing. In every piece of media that gets made starring the Blue Beetle, who does it star?
Jaime Reyes.
Exactly. So when people see the Blue Beetle, who are they going to think of?
That is true.
What about when Rhodey took over as Iron Man and the Avengers actually found out it wasn't Tony Stark under the helmet, but they still accepted him as Iron Man. It wasn't a permanent shift, but it did happen, and it is canon.
Her entire premise is bullshit. Or
her entire
premise I don't care who wrote this.
An argument.
Iron Man.
This part gets really triggering. The only objection one could have is racism. It is the literal definition of racism to believe that Spider-Man possesses essential characteristics by being white that would be lost if he were another skin color. And it is frankly stupid to think that a black actor can't play a character usually portrayed as white, but it's no big deal for a tiny 19-year-old Tom Holland to play a divorced CEO of an international tech conglomerate born in the 80s, which Peter was in the comics at the time.
They are not as yet the same character, for one thing.
Yeah, both casting choices require rethinking who Peter Parker is, and both are opportunities to explore new perspectives while keeping the fundamental core and heroism of Spider-Man intact. So don't create any new black characters. Just make old characters black, right?
Yeah. Hey, let's prove how lacking we are in creativity and the ability to take risk.
You know what we need? We need a Black Hulk. And they did that in the Ultimate Universe, and it was fucking stupid.
Let's continue, because this is about to get deep in here with the BS and the racism. It's also ridiculous to object when we've seen so much evidence that diversely recast and reimagined characters work all the time. We know that Nick Fury can be black, as can Jimmy Olsen.
Jackson is, people know him as Samuel L. Jackson.
As can Jimmy Olsen and Johnny Storm. Sue Storm can be Latina.
No, that Johnny Olsen was cool and attractive.
Jimmy Olsen. Aquaman can be Hawaiian. Superman can be Japanese. Hikaru Sulu can be gay, which, by the way, what's his name who played him first? Did not like them changing him gay. The Doctor can be a woman, which we will see, right? And each diverse recasting counters a bigoted narrative that only straight white men can be the hero. The straight white, nobody's saying that.
Hold on.
The fuck is he watching?
Hold on. There's a point I want to make. The Asian Superman that they mentioned in the article, he's Chinese, not Japanese.
No, I think they're on about Dinkin, who's part Japanese. Sue Storm can be a Latina. They're on about what the hell do you call her?
Jessica Alba.
She's good looking. From the Fantastic Four movies.
Jessica Alba.
She was playing a European white woman.
Yep.
That's why she had the blue contacts in. That's why she had her hair dyed blonde.
Now it's important to note that casting an actor of color to play a traditionally white character is fundamentally different than casting a white actor to play a character of color. A black actor can play James Bond. A white actor cannot play Black Panther. First off, as much as Spider-Man and James Bond and most white characters have no connection to a white culture, almost every character of color's ethnicity is an important part of their identity, in part because so many of them were created as a challenge to an overwhelmingly white cultural landscape. Jack Kirby and Stan Lee created Black Panther as a conscientious effort to add diversity to Marvel Universe. It's not a coincidence that he's introduced 2 issues after Wyatt Wingfoot, the Human Torch's Native American roommate. Therefore, Kirby and Lee made a character who is the king of an insular African nation, someone who could not be anything other than African, although there was a white Black Panther.
Yeah, insular, by which you mean an ethno-state.
Yeah, it's an ethno-state,
it's totally not the same as the alt-right, just color flipped.
Pretty sure Salmon is the only reason Kamala Khan isn't canceled yet. Probably so. Her book doesn't do too well. Well, digitally it does sometimes. Secondly, minorities have been and still are shut out from wide representation. And there are so few roles, even fewer starring roles for actors of color in Hollywood, that it dramatically reduces representation every time a role that could have been played by a POC is given to a white actor. As I said before, lack of representation is symbolic annihilation. So even if an Asian character could arguably be played by a white actress, ScarJo, it does literal harm, both emotionally and in a practical, financial, and professional sense. To whitewash these characters, costing actors of color a job, and robbing audiences of color a chance to identify with the heroes presented. This is why recasting established characters is important. This is why it's not enough to create ethnically diverse knockoffs and hope for the best. When we read stories, we don't want to know that we could be people who are sort of like our heroes. We want to know that we could be our heroes themselves.
But if you blackwash a white character, that's exactly what you're doing.
Hold on, I'm pretty sure Black Manta, outside of his name, has nothing to do with the fact that he's black.
Audiences of colour not being able to identify with their bullshit. Yes, they can. It's a human being. Therefore, you can identify with them.
I identified heavily with Captain America growing up.
One of my favourite characters was Giant Man, or as he was originally called, Black Goliath.
Yeah, I always liked him.
And Falcon.
I used to like when he would show up in Marvel 2-in-1 with the thing.
Yeah. And Power Man.
One of my favorite characters, as I mentioned before, is Jaime Reyes, a Latino teenager.
Yeah.
I am not Latino, in case you guys did not know.
There you go, gang. That was the article on Miles Morales. I just don't get it. I really don't. Now you cannot create a new character to satisfy them. You have to change a prior character to a different race. Wow, it's amazing. It's amazing. Anyway, let me know what you think in the comments below. Also, if you like this video, you know the drill. Click like, share to get word out about the channel. And don't forget to hit subscribe and notifications. Cool things happen. I don't want you to miss anything around here. Also, this is the way I'm trying to make a living. So if you don't mind helping out the channel, go on over to Patreon. Drop $1 in the till and helps keep the lights on. And most importantly, helps keep making videos for you. Also, if you do like theme parks, Disney, that kind of stuff, by all means, go on over to my new channel, Mad About the Mouse. Link is also in the description below. I'd like to thank everybody who's already done that. And to everyone, all of the true believers, thank you very much for watching.